All righty. All right. Got some people coming in.
Right.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome again to our monthly event. Um, we have our participants trickling in at the moment. So as everyone's getting acclimated and getting ready for a great event, Anthony Arena's got some great stuff to share with you from NJBIA. So there you go, Anthony.
Thank you, Kelly. Good afternoon, everyone. So good to have you on board today. I'm Anthony Arena from New Jersey Business Industry Association, and welcome to the Business Growth Roundtable. We were all thrilled to have you here today to participate in this great opportunity with this such an amazing team. And for those of you who might be new to NJBIA or just coming on board and wanting to learn more information, I'm one of the sales executives here, so please feel free to reach out to me. I will put my information in the chat. Just quick little things about NJBIA. We are the nation's largest statewide business association, representing 1/4 of all New Jersey employees. NJBIA's goal is to help support companies here in New Jersey that create jobs here within our state. We offer at NJBIA customer development opportunities with visibility through our events, our magazine ads, our podcast, our television show, and also money-saving discounts on opportunities for your business, such as payroll, 401k, healthcare, and HR support. So I will leave you with my information in the chat, but also want to tell you about 3 upcoming events here at NJBIA. Tomorrow we have March 12th, Business Impact in the first month of the Trump administration. This is a virtual event. It'll be free. March 18th, we have our session number 3 in our leadership series. As we continue with it, this will be Strategic Vision and Innovation with Catherine Starhill. And March 28th, we have a legislative insight, a conversation between Republican leaders, Senator Anthony Bucco and Assemblyman John DeMeo. So all of these events are on our website, so please feel free to reach out to me. And now I will turn it over to Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anthony. And again, welcome everybody. In a moment, I'm just going to go over a few minor housekeeping items before we get started, but I would like to introduce myself first. So hello, I am Kelly Lauro, Senior Account Manager and Operations Specialist at C3 Workplace. And for over 30 years, we've helped business owners and professionals streamline their operations, their business development, and their finances. Our team specializes in connecting and optimizing your systems. We ensure that the operations and the customer support run like a well-oiled machine, which is a wonderful thing. And our clients trust us to build scalable and executable systems so their business thrives without them in every detail, which is great that we're going to be talking about leadership because that is just what you want, right? If you want to create a self-sufficient growing business, after we hear what Laura has to say, let's talk. And before I hand it over to Vicki, just a few housekeeping items. Just a reminder that we are recording this. So if you miss anything or you need to rewatch, you'll be getting the recording from Paradigm's team within the week. We also will have time at the end for Q&A. So if you have any questions, please make sure you put them in the Q&A section, not the chat box, because it gets kind of crowded in there. So we don't want to lose your question during the event. And then finally, please feel free to chat and introduce yourself in the chat box. Tell us your name, tell us your company, share your contact information, because this is, a networking event and there are other like-minded businesses here, professionals. So we'd love for you to get to know each other. So thank you. And now let me hand it over to the wonderful Vicki Hart. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. It is a delight to be here. Hello, everyone. I'm Vicki Hart, Director of Client Engagement at Paradigm Marketing and Design. We are an award-winning strategic agency who is recognized for our excellence in assisting businesses that have a complex sale. So anytime there is human interaction that needs to take place to make your sale happen, that is what we are talking about. So how do we achieve such amazing results? We leverage websites as marketing tools, implementing strategic thinking to drive conversions, and leveraging data and marketing automation to make informed decisions. So if you are seeking to expand, grow, and elevate your business or inject purpose into your lead gen, I look forward to having a conversation with you. So, oftentimes we always talk about, we could not do this without our friends at C3, our friends at NJBIA, and of course, our sponsors. We'd like to recognize the fabulous Summit Place Financial and Susie McLean. Summit Place Financial Advisors offers focused, individualized attention, serving a select group of highly successful people like you who have outgrown mass market institutions. Success often brings complex investment, tax, and estate planning challenges, and Summit offers experienced, personalized, and disciplined guidance to help achieve your financial goals and simplify your wealth opportunistically. They collaborate with trusted professionals to provide a holistic and expert approach to your financial journey. Of course, they're an SEC registered firm and do not sell products for and earn commission. So if you are interested in having a conversation about how you can maximize your wealth opportunities, please reach out to Susie McLean. And then we'd like to also thank our supporting sponsor, Mark Shore from Atlas Consulting, Employee Benefits Consultant. Atlas Consulting Services is a full-service insurance brokerage firm with specialized expertise in sophisticated and multifaceted employee benefit programs. And I don't know if any of you have looked into this before, benefits can be absolutely overwhelming, whether it's health, dental, vision, life, disability, retirement, and more. ACS helps handle all aspects of employer-sponsored benefits, from plan implementation and employee communication and enrollment claims to claims resolution and regulatory monitoring of state and compliance laws. So they are a trusted partner working with companies, with prestigious companies, law firms, hedge funds, from small business to large, from Main Street to Wall Street. I know Mark personally, he is amazing, and nobody has better response time than our wonderful Mark Shore. So we're grateful to have Mark's support in this. And so I don't know about you, I'm excited to learn to be constantly learning. So next month, mark your calendars. We have a wonderful panel featuring my friend Damian Weinstein, Donna Miller, and Walter. And I'm sorry, Walter, I'm not going to pronounce your name correctly, so you're just going to have to forgive me on this one. Kelly's going to drop the link, but it's today's journey to affect. Actually, I'm sorry. That's navigating the last chapter of your business journey. Oh my goodness, that seems like it's so far in the distance, but if you're planning properly, now is the time to be having those conversations, because you need runway. You can't do it tomorrow. You need a couple years. So we're delighted to invite you on April 8th to our next business roundtable, and Kelly will drop the link. So today, when we talk about the end of our journey, now we're talking about the journey that we are in. We are delighted to put the spotlight on today's journey to effective leadership, featuring Laura Carruthers. Now, I've known Laura for years. I met her many years ago when she started out on her own. She helps leaders gain clarity about people, leadership, and culture when she first went out on her own, and to see how she has grown into a highly sought after speaker, coach, trainer, and HR leader that has grown her business by double digits annually. The Carruthers team has over 20 experts that provide creative and unique ways of training rising managers and leaders across the U.S., increasing their leadership efficiency using proven experiential training supported by micro learnings. Now, if I could just embrace all of that, my life would be 1,000 times better. So that's why I'm here to listen to Laura and her expertise today. Leaders rely on Carruthers coaches and fractional HR leadership to understand the nuances of high growth middle market organizations as they design, program, and fine-tune practices. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome the delightful Laura to the stage, and I'm going to hop out. And don't forget, please make sure you add any of your questions to the Q&A. The chat can get unwieldy, and it's hard for Kelly to be able to manage all of that. So thank you so much for joining us. Laura, take it away.
Thank you. Thanks, Vicki, Kelly, and Anthony for welcoming us here today. I'm going to share my screen and get us going here. All right. All righty. So today we're going to really talk about a few things. One is making sure everybody understands the difference between leadership and management. It's not just the title you sit with, but the kind of things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. What makes an effective leader? And we have data from hundreds of thousands of leaders that have participated in 360 surveys to understand what are the skills and competencies that really make someone more effective than someone else. We're going to talk about the reactive behaviors that get in the way of leadership effectiveness, the way we're all wired. So it's an interesting conversation. And then we'll share some things you can walk away from this session and start to do. And hopefully you'll define an unlocking move for yourself. So that's our goal today. John Maxwell has 5 leadership levels. So we talk about this as really the way people rise through leadership in their career. So when you're in a position of leadership, people work for you because they have to, because you're in the position that's their boss. When it's permission, people actually work for you because they want to. So you're good at relationship building. They're applying for transfers to your department because you're known as a good leader who's developing people, and you've got a good reputation for getting things done. A results-driven leader, in the next level, is someone who really has productivity coupled with permission. So they're getting things done at a very high level, winning awards for the department that's the most productive, and people like working for them. Then you get to the reproducing leader. The reproducing leader likes to help other leaders develop. And so it's mentoring, it's coaching, it's developing leaders that create more leaders. It's the calling actually of my leadership development work was like, how do we create more and better leaders in the world? So that is the reproducing leader. And then lastly, it's the legacy leader. And a legacy leader is you get kind of elevated to this position by the level of the people around you and the way that you have an impact on them and their lives. These are the leaders people say they follow from place to place. They will follow off a bridge. These are the ones you remember forever. And you talk about the best leader I ever worked for. So what I want to ask you all, if you would just quickly pop into the chat, how many legacy leaders do you believe you've worked for in your career? So as we take a look, how many legacy leaders have you worked for in your career? 1, 3, 2, 1, not enough. 1, 3, 2, 2, 1. Okay, so yeah, this is typically what we hear. When I'm in a room of people, I say, hey, raise your hand if you've worked for 1. And you get more than half the room has worked for 1. And then 2, by the time you get to 3, it's almost nothing. And, Lara Luckman with 4, you're extremely rare. Usually I have 2 or 3 hands up when you get to 3. So what this says is we're also really rough. Lost the word. We judge people harshly to get to that legacy leader, right? We're not easy. We don't say easily, oh yeah, I've worked for 5, I've worked for 10. Most people get there. They don't. Legacy leadership is really hard to get to, where people talk about you in that way. And honestly, that's what we all hope to be someday, is a leader that leaves our imprint on people in such a way that we've bettered their lives. Okay, so that's, as we go into this, let's remember we're not easy judges on leaders. All right, leadership versus management. Management is doing things right, and leadership is doing the right things, says Peter Drucker, leadership expert. When we talk about leadership, we're not talking about behaviors, we're talking about competencies, not about roles, but about the things you need to be doing to be an effective leader. What are the competencies that you need? Right? So leadership are these things, people that are creating visions and strategies. They challenge the status quo, bring about a lot of change. And they're not only aligning people, but they're developing people and really working with people. Management are folks that are actually executing against all this, right? They're planning, they're executing, they're organizing. These are the things they're doing. So what does management look like? Well, you're running late to your morning meeting after a night out with some friends, right? You just got an email and your boss needs some additional data for the board meeting. And you have to be ready at the start of their meeting. So you arrive at your desk, you're 10 minutes before the meeting, you barrel down the stairs, and now you're quickly pulling together spreadsheets and PDFs and things that your team's been working on for a week. You're putting it together quickly so that you can get it to your boss before the board meeting. And so that's management. You're managing all those things you got from different places. You're managing what people need above you to get the result, to get the plan. So management is getting work done when it needs to be done. So getting stuff done at the right time. It's not always pretty, and sometimes it's daunting. And many of us are filling both roles all the time. But it's outcome and results driven. So management is outcome and results driven. We manage processes, we lead people, we manage data, we develop people to use the data to tell the story. When we're managing, we're consumed with the functional impact of the work that gets done. It might involve things like, budgeting and evaluating data, facilitating an operational aspect of day-to-day responsibilities. As leaders, we're prioritizing developing relationships and trust and teams. We develop talent, and we motivate others and coach others and create those leaders for the future. So short and sweet, we've got managers are driving work getting done, and leaders are developing people. And great leaders actually have to do both. They know when to manage and when to lead, because ultimately these two things that come together drive the results of the organization. When you've got great people that are developed and excited and engaged, and you're managing those outcomes. Make sense? So we've got 4 promises. We're going to focus on leadership for the majority of this presentation. We have 4 promises of leadership for a well-optimized leadership effectiveness team. Research has shown us over time that these are 4 universal promises that leaders need to promise their employees. So it's kind of a promise from the leader to what the expectation of the organization is of them. So promise number 1 is that we as leaders, we're going to set the right direction, and we're going to create meaningful work. We create and communicate that. This is the stuff that you work on, the vision, the mission, the values, the culture that has been created and sustained. So we're kind of creating that meaning and direction for the organization. Promise number 2 is that we're going to engage all of our shareholders and stakeholders and hold them accountable for performance. So people do want to be held accountable, and they want those around them to be held accountable. So we don't only ensure that leadership team understands the direction, but that we recognize by engaging the whole company in clear understanding of the direction, we harness the energy and passion of the people, and we engage them. And by engaging them, the organization benefits from their full potential and their collective contribution. People want to identify with the why of an organization, and what they do, they want it to be important and meaningful. They want to feel that it really matters to the organization, to the company, that they get it done. And sadly, clarity and commitment often ends at the leadership team level. Many organizations have not done a great job of filtering this throughout the entire organization. So if somebody walks in your company and they ask anybody there should be able to say, here's what our goals are, here's what we stand for, right? So that's the second promise that we make to our people. Our third promise is to ensure that processes and systems facilitate focus and execution. So we channel actions into results, and we provide feedback. Leaders break this promise by not providing the resources. We only have 3 resources available to us as leaders. We've got the people that work for us, their time and their skill. We've got time, so what kind of deadlines and strategy, what we set, the time we've got, and we've got money that we can use. And so by focusing on these 3 things, not the next bright, shiny object, by having ineffective processes or no process, and by having too many processes that become the focus versus the result, these are areas that leaders fail. By burning people out, by having not enough talent on your team. You've got a small team trying to do the work of what double that size should be doing. That's where you're going to burn people out, or just the time in the day, right? So we have to think about, as leaders, these 3 buckets of resources we have and how we use them most effectively to execute on the business. So how do we align those? How do we make sure we're staffed correctly, we've set the right kind of deadlines and deliverables, and that we've supported the organization with processes and the money for the right tools so that we can get things done? And tools could be development, systems, all kinds of things. Okay, so those are really the 3 things that we've got to focus on. This is an area that we hear about a lot from people, that leaders are breaking that promise because people are just fried and burnt out. And then the promise number 4 is kind of the one we're going to focus the majority of the time on today, which is that we can't do any of the others without the ability to be effective leaders. As we discussed earlier, we all hold the bar so high for leaders, and we need to be committed to our own individual development, looking at our own effectiveness. How can we get better? How can we raise the bar for ourselves to get to that legacy level and really keep all our promises of leadership to our people? People respect, people respect, but they also expect their leaders to maintain relationships of trust and to achieve and sustain the desired results for the organization. So it's, both of those things balancing. And leadership effectiveness is not only effectiveness of the CEO, but it's actually the effectiveness of all the leaders collectively on the leadership team. So as we look at leadership effectiveness, you can have a legacy level CEO, but if they don't have the right people on their team, it's going to fall apart. You need all of the leaders to be operating in this way. Whether you signed up for it or not when you took that leadership position, these are the expectations that your team has. These are the expectations that the organization and all the stakeholders have of leaders. All right, so I mentioned earlier that we have databases of hundreds of thousands of leaders around the world on what makes the most effective leader. And what we've learned is that leaders have these gifts, these creative strengths, and we call them gifts, are the ones that are the most valued. They have the highest correlation to the most effective leaders. And they start with strong people skills. Strong people, interpersonal capabilities, caring, compassionate, big-hearted, respects others, connects to others, makes people feel valued. This is how we define strong people skills. The next is visionary, back to the creating that compelling vision of the future that really fosters alignment of your organization to work towards that vision. They set the strategic direction, and then the plans align so that they can meet that and the organization can thrive. They're team builders, right? They engage and support the team effort, and they're constantly doing things to get that engagement with team and finding the right kind of people to be on the team so that the members can advocate for themselves and the team initiative. So it's kind of that team building of that self-sustaining team. Good leaders are personable and approachable. They're accessible. They're available. They're likable. They're easy to work with. They may have a good sense of humor. Personable and approachable. They lead by example. So we say, do they walk the talk? People set these values and visions, and are they leading by embracing those themselves, or do they want everybody else to do it but not them? So good leaders are leading by example. They're listening, right? They're listening to people, they're attentive, they're present, and they're listening so that they can take all of that data and put it together. They've got the passion and the drive, and a strong sense of commitment to the success of the organization and people's personal success. Again, these leaders are developing other leaders. So they've got that passion and drive to develop people. And they're empowering people. So they share leadership. They encourage people to take ownership. They find their own solutions. They want people to figure it out and find solutions and make their own meaning and decisions, and create great teams that trust each other, and they trust each other's ability to get things done. And then great leaders tend to have positive attitudes as well. So they're usually optimistic, glass half full kind of people with a can-do attitude, saying they can do it. So these are the things that we hear time and time and time again that are the ways people describe their best and most effective leaders that they've ever worked for. On the same token, it's really interesting. We ask in these surveys the best leaders and the worst leaders, right? And so funny, as we look at strengths of both the best leaders and sometimes the worst leaders, we call these strengths non-differentiating. So they're almost a point of entrance to leadership. You need to do these things just to get in the door. And the bad leaders are sometimes doing these things really well, but not some of the things on the first page. So they're usually really smart. They've got a great knowledge of the business. They're visionary. They're able to think about how to move this organization forward, and they get the results, right? Makes sense. You usually don't get promoted into leadership unless you're getting results. And interesting, they're strong at networking. So they've got that networking skill. And so we heard these non-differentiating strengths for both the effective and the non-effective leader. So, brilliant people getting results, working hard, networked to get the right things will get you in the door, but they won't get you to the level that we want to be as the most effective leader. So it's a point of entrance. You have to do these things. All right, so we talk about what I call these reactive wiring that we all have. We're all wired a certain way. And as part of leadership, we've got to really get clear on what our wiring is and how it came about. So let me talk about when a problem comes in and you're reacting from that wiring. So a problem comes in and you're like, okay, woo, I've got an issue. I've got to solve this issue. And you're driven from a point of fear that failing, you might fail, you might not get approval, people might not like you might not get the result. So when that problem comes in, cortisol runs through you, that kind of fear, and you then react. So, oh my gosh, we have a client that didn't like us. I've got to fix this situation quickly before we lose this client, right? So you're reacting from a fear and you jump into reaction mode. And so sometimes we do this well. And, our fear drives us to a good reaction and a good outcome. And sometimes our fear drives us to react in a way that isn't the best when we have time to reflect on it. And over time, it is anxiety containing because our reactions goes up and down, and we kind of never really get out of that mode, right? So we have this reactive operating system. It's like a playing not to lose game. We're scared of losing, we're scared of something, and so we continue to jump. This is where the firefighting comes in. Many times people talk about that, and we're just in this firefighting mode, and our weeks look like roller coasters. They're not planned. And we're doing work and we're being interrupted by client calls, by employee problems, and we're reacting. And sometimes it's daunting and we're exhausted, and again, it doesn't always mean those reactions don't get you a good result. Sometimes they do, but it's going to go up and down because you're in that mode. Then we call that playing from the outside in. Outside forces are driving us to some level of reactive behavior. Okay. And reactive leaders will always pick safety over purpose. Then let's talk about the creative leader. So the creative leader has something come up and they're acting from a place of purpose and vision. So it's aligned, and with passion, they're deciding what action is the best to take, or maybe even not to take at this time, right? And they are always linking it back to their purpose and vision and acting on purpose. So they're acting on purpose is really the best way to say it as well. And they're playing from the inside out. They decide deliberately how to act and if we want to respond in a thoughtful way. Both of these responses are actions that move us further towards our purpose. So over time, when you're acting with purpose and vision and passion, you're going to be driving things forward positively. And as we look at your leadership effectiveness, it's going to be energy unleashing, and you're going to continue to get better and better because you're focused on your purpose, right? And you're acting not out of fear, but deliberately with what you need. So let me give you an example. This is what I do for a living, right? Is leadership work. And I am wired, I'm a people pleaser. So I am definitely wired that way. And my fear comes from, oh, is somebody not going to like me? Or are they going to be unhappy with me? Am I going to upset a client? Right? So we had a client that was not happy with what we were doing, and they called and they kind of complained about what the product they got from the team. So I immediately reacted out of, oh my gosh, a client's not happy with us. And I pulled the team together and I was like, we have to redo this. This project didn't go well. We have to redo this. So immediately reacted, team, I don't care how long it takes. We're all going to jump on this and redo this. So we did that. And then the client came back again and said, well, this is better, but I actually don't like the way that you've presented it. So I like the data, but I don't like the way you've presented it. I want something different for our board. I was thinking, something like this. So what did I do? Again, oh my gosh, I've got to please the client. So I jump into reaction mode. I hire a graphic designer. I'm like, hey, we've got to make this better for her board. And everybody, again, now weekend number 2, everybody's working, trying to get this in a way that would make this person happy. And this kept going. So by about the 4th time, this leader had some issues she wanted us to redo. And I was reacting. Somebody on my team who was a leadership coach actually grabbed me by the shoulders and he's like, Laura, you are being so reactive. You don't even see it. You are burning us out. You are spending money on things that weren't in budget, and you're going way beyond the scope of this project. So you're breaking all your leadership promises and you're totally reacting and you don't even see it yourself. And you're killing us and yourself. And we're never going to make this client happy. So there's example 1 of how a leader reacts. From a creative standpoint, an example I'll use myself again, we went into COVID. And obviously everybody remembers what that was like in the beginning, and people were really just scared and all kinds of feelings were happening. So with purpose, I got the team together and said, this is where we are. What can we do for our clients? What can we do to help people right now? So our team came up with the ideas, well, we've done all these training classes. Maybe we could pick some classes that we think would help people right now that we could deliver virtually instead of in person. And we could offer them up to our clients for free. And maybe we could create some new ones that embodied some of the stuff people are going through now. And so with passion, we all took action on creating that. And the team felt better because they were doing things to help people. We were working purposefully on something to help our clients. And, each time we did something more with that, that was driving us to be better and have more meaning for our clients. And it helped the team feel good about what they were doing. And we were creating our way. We were creating leaders by doing things like this, right? So it was outcome creating. Can you see the difference here? How we were playing on purpose to fulfill our vision to be a company that helps people lead and clarify things and feel good, right? Coaching. So focusing on doing things with that purpose in mind was energy unleashing, and the whole team was excited and got behind this, and we were glad we were able to do this. So there's some personal examples of acting from how I'm wired versus stopping and thinking and acting on purpose and with a vision. As we talk about, acting on purpose, the creative competencies of leaders, leaders want to lead rather than fix or adapt. They want to create rather than react. Reactive people use caution over creating results, self-protection over productive engagement, aggression at the expense of building alignment, and control over collaboration. So these are just some of the behaviors that we tend to see manifest when people are coming from their reactive. Many of you have probably seen this vision of a person, your outer game, what you're showing to the world is sometimes just the tip of the iceberg. And what's really important is your inner game that's driving all those things. So your belief system, your assumptions, the way that you value yourself and what's happened to you through the years, like the way you make meaning. So taken back from your childhood and early ways that your family created things and that you made meaning from things, the way that you make decisions, your own identity, emotional intelligence is all part of our inner game, the stuff that people don't see and that we need to creatively let drive our leadership. We work with that reactive character structure, the inner beliefs of our inner game, the core beliefs of how we were as a child, our identity, what kept us safe, what made us feel valuable. And these things tend to fall into three categories. People tend to be either complying, protecting, or controlling. And those are the three reactive character structures. So a controlling reactive structure tends to be what I would call the type A personalities. They want to be number one, and they want to dominate and excel and achieve and control and win. These are the ones who, they were brought up this way. To be worth something, I need to be winning. I need to be the best. That's how they identify their own self-worth, right? Our protective character structure really looks at the brain, the intelligence. So I want to be the smartest, self-sufficient, really the one who has the answers. This person looks to be the one that people come to for the answers. They're known as the one who's gonna be able to think things through. And sometimes these folks get distant in protecting. So in protecting themselves, they'll back away. They go into their head and they'll back away. They'll need time to think about things. And our third structure is complying, which I mentioned is kind of the one that I am, where you want to please people. It's about running from your heart. You want to make sure you're meeting all the expectations and that you're accepted and that people love you. This is the complying reactive character structure. So we look at it as being driven by the heart, by the mind, and just by the sheer willpower, right? Those controllers that type A want to get it done. And those are all amazing things. Getting it done, doing it this way, wanting to be, have people like us, and people pleasing. So they're all, it's not that any of these are bad, one is worse than another. These are just reactive structures that we're wired for because of how we were brought up, because of our family beliefs, because of things that happen to us. And so we need to just get aware of where our wiring is and why. Because as we're wired this way, so much of how other people experience us is our nonverbal emotions and the way we react to things. 60 to 80% of how others experience us is our nonverbal. And so as we look at these three areas, you might be thinking, okay, I think I know someone that might be wired to be more controlling. They get super frustrated and agitated. The complying people tend to get a lot of anxiety. Oh my God, I'm not making them happy. Like my example. And the protecting people really tend to go distant, and really remove themselves from this and become a little more aloof. And they tend to be the ones who really don't accept anything other than perfection, tend to be perfectionists as well. So let me talk about the controller. The controller is super talented. They provide strategic direction, work on strategy. They're controlling to the point of reduced effectiveness. They're self-protective. They can be arrogant and aloof. The gifts of a controller is they're always looking on how to make things better, continuous improvement. So through the organization, they want to be the best. So they want to get things better. They want results. They really are going to make sure that they work to create those results. They're going to be the one in the room that speaks their opinion, even if it's controversial. And we all know we need that. We need people to speak up and be that person that brings the thought we haven't thought of to the room, even if they're playing devil's advocate, right? We need to hear that. They're going to take charge, and they're going to get people into action because they want to get it done and get the result. So those are real gifts of a controller. The inner assumptions is I stay safe by taking charge. I need to be in charge. Anything less than perfect isn't okay. I'm a valuable person when people look up to me. I want people to look up to me about, that I'm getting these results, I'm getting things done. That's when I feel most valued. And failure is just not an option. So some of the liabilities when you put all these things together is controllers can be overly aggressive. They can tend to discount or ignore negative feedback because they just want to move forward and get it done. They want to get those results done. Sometimes they believe their own press. So they're believing that they are the best and they're going to win everything, even sometimes at the expense of when that might not be the case. Controllers tend to micromanage, control, right? Micromanage versus delegate. And they need to compete. Everything's some kind of a win or a loss. And sometimes they push the team too hard. And so you're burning out your team by pushing. And all these things, I'm kind of talking in the extreme. So folks are on all different spectrums, all different levels of some of these areas of reactive behavior. And some people have a little bit from several areas versus being deeply ingrained in one. So this is the controller. All right, a protector has some internal assumptions around they love to problem solve. They're good people readers. They're confident that they can make the hard decision because they think deeply and they're going to research and find solutions to challenges. And these are huge gifts to an organization. And these are the reasons people continue to move up the leadership level, is from the gifts of these areas, the gift of the heart, the gift of the mind, the gift of the willpower to get it done. Their assumptions, the protector, is that to be smart, to be wise, to be knowledgeable. Like, that is really important. I'm smarter than others, which makes me feel secure and worthwhile. Others don't necessarily do it as well as me, and I don't know that I can trust them because, again, I kind of know the best way to do things. I'm very, very wise in this area. And to be safe, sometimes I'm going to just remove myself from the situation and protect. Their liabilities are sometimes they're not good listeners because they're thinking they have the answers. They are impatient with others. I think of leaders that are protectors in this category that they're so quick sometimes to think through things that they're like, when somebody's telling a story, they're like, come on, go quicker. They're already there. They've already jumped there because they are so intelligent that they tend to be impatient. Sometimes they demand people to perform at the same level that they expect of themselves. And again, because they like to research and think things through, sometimes get distance and protect themselves, they don't tend to be the best team players. They like to do it alone. And those are some liabilities. A complier, the gifts of that is they tend to build strong relationships. They mentor and develop others. They're always willing to help, and they make the team feel cared about because, again, what's important to them is the relationship, is being liked, being loved. So they want everybody else to feel that as well. Their internal assumptions are, for people to like me, I need to be, helpful. I need to be nice. I need to be accepted. So to be is to be liked and helpful and loved. And that's how I develop self-worth, right? I'm part of a group, which makes me secure. And I like to be part of a team member. I need to do what I can for others because their feelings matter the most. And, we really need to get this all figured out in a way that make people feel good. Their liabilities are they lack emotional control because they're so wired by their heart. Teams sometimes aren't held accountable because difficult conversations can be hard. If you're trying to always make people happy, holding people accountable can be difficult. And sometimes they overcommit because they want to please everybody and make everybody happy. So they're overcommitting themselves, then they're overcommitting their team, they're burning out their resources, like the story I gave you. So the flip side of all these are some wonderful creative competencies that are driven by the heart, the mind, or the willpower. So if we just stick with the complying and relating, if we say, how do we move from reacting and complying and people pleasing and needing to belong to still coming from the place of heart, which is how you're wired, but coming from a place of relating and creativity, you're thinking, I am capable and others are also capable. I can be and I am a good team leader and a good member. Worth is given. It's not measured by success or popularity or performance or strength. You're leaning into the heart, but not out of fear. You're leaning into the heart from a place of knowing that others want to achieve great things, and I can't be everything to everyone. I need to take care of me, and it's okay to say no. So these are all ways that the heart can act from a more creative standpoint versus a reactive standpoint. Okay, so instead of pleasing people at the expense of all, you're making decisions on how the team can be capable, how you can work in a way that achieves the result that you want, not because you're driven from fear. So one of my favorite leadership quotes, and most of the people that I've coached over the years end up putting this on their desk somewhere to remind them that we all have a choice every single day about being mindful on how we choose to show up, how we choose to lead, how we choose to mentor, how we want to take ourselves into the world. And between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response, not to be driven by that reaction. And in our response lies our growth as an adult, lies our growth as a leader, and lies our own freedom to not be so connected to our reactive behaviors. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. That's great.
Great. So I'm just going to do a couple tips, Kelly,
No, go
and
ahead.
then
Go ahead. Yeah.
we'll do some questions. Do we have some questions?
There are some questions, but we're
Okay.
coming close to time. So
Okay.
you go through your tips because they might
Yep.
answer, and then we'll see what we've got.
Great. So strategies for developing as leaders, start to be aware of that space and catch yourself before you react. Take that pause. Find a way to take the pause. Plan a team development event. Calendar 10 minutes on Fridays to think about and recognize someone. Call them, write them a note. Just think about ways that you can be recognizing and developing leaders. Survey your team members to find out what they're motivated by. Do they want you to roll up your sleeves and work with them, or do they want more autonomy and you need to be delegating, backing away, and letting them figure things out? Read some books on leadership and set a development goal for yourself and then share it with someone, because we find that accountability, when shared, really makes a difference. And I know some people are still developing as a manager. So a couple management things you can walk away from today with is identify one process that needs to be upgraded, and engage your team on how to do that. Write down everything you do and find things to delegate that would be developmental for someone else. Block out time on your calendar. Do those blocks so that you have time to think and review data and do transactional things rather than always being driven by the fire. Keep an ongoing parking lot for things you see that could use improvement. And use coaching versus command and control as a way to level up your team. So 70% of the variance of good and poor engagement is the quality of the manager as well as the leader here. So we talked about these things. I also wanted to just mention, and we'll send out, we do have a complimentary leadership assessment. If you want to send an email and just mention that you were at this seminar, we will give you a self-assessment on leadership so you learn a little more about your reactive and creative behaviors. Sorry about that, Kelly. Go.
Oh, no, that's fine. Those were great tips. So I'm glad that you took the time to go over those because those are very helpful. We had some questions of people who registered and we had some questions live. But
Great.
since it's 1 o'clock now, I think what we can do is I'll send them directly to you and then you can respond and contact those people directly and let them know your feedback or, best practices kind of thing. But that was
Absolutely.
so enlightening, especially as someone myself who's sort of transitioning into that. And there's a lot, a lot of
I
helpful
know there's so
information.
much, you try to fit like, 3 hours of stuff into a webinar here.
No, that was so great and so helpful. And thank you so much, Laura. Thank you, Anthony and Vicky, and thank you all for joining us. Again, we do have an event next month coming, and I'll put the link in, and you'll get emails with that. But again, thank you, Laura, and thank you all for joining us today. Have a great day and enjoy beautiful sunshine. Have a great day.
Callie.